This episode discusses a variety of subjects. Will the price of Bitcoin drop to $65,000 soon? What does the M2 money supply tell us about Bitcoin's prospects? Uphold, are they out of cryptocurrency? I don't know, but they put out a little tweet. We must investigate. We have a lot to talk about and a lot to look into. We need to talk about XRP, Bitcoin, the current state, its direction, when the breakout will happen, and the liquidity. In my possession are all the solutions. Thus, without further ado, relax, sit back, and let's begin. Ethereum is trading at $2,016, up just over 1%, and Bitcoin is up 0.79% over the last day at $85,017. And both USDT and USDC are trading at their dollar pegs, along with XRP. The total cryptocurrency market capitalization is still hovering around the 2020 all-time high of $2.76 trillion, up almost 1% to $2.41. For those of you who are unfamiliar, we typically examine the M2 money supply in conjunction with Bitcoin. Let's take a look at the M2 money supply. Bitcoin has been incredibly accurate in lagging behind the M2. Considering the M2, the view for the future is that it will arrive in the summer. Bitcoin pushes it above $110,000, setting a new record. As a leading indicator, changes in M2 frequently forecast changes in the price of Bitcoin, usually with a 70-day lag. In the meantime, the blue line represents your M2 money supply, and we can see that dip going down to $65,000. This could be the tax time sell-off we're looking at and that we have been talking about, correct? Recently, there has been a 2-month gap because M2 started to recover before Bitcoin. It has now fully recovered and is predicted to reach new highs, indicating that Bitcoin may follow suit. Analysts have provided insights into why this next Bitcoin rally may surpass all previous ones, which you should definitely be keeping an eye on and reading right here. Next, we have this article from Cointelegraph. Will Bitcoin hit $65,000? The price of Bitcoin has recovered by as much as 14% after falling to a 4-month low of $76,000 on March 11th. Even though it is down about 25% from its record high of nearly $110,000, which is typical for a bull market downturn. The dark cloud, however, indicates that Bitcoin is peaking out, and some analysts predict that the price decline will last for some time to come. It asserts that following its ejection at $87,470, Bitcoin is currently experiencing new negative pressure, with the slide being reinforced by the dark cloud cover padding's downward channel resistance. A powerful green candle followed by a red candle that opens above the previous close is what causes the dark cloud cover, according to an analysis published by GTX on X, but closes below the middle of the first candle's body. There you have it. That's what we're looking at right now. He thinks we're going to see a dip down into that lower $60,000 range. As I've been preaching on this channel for a while, I think Bitcoin will make one last drop from $65,000 to $75,000. I wish I had a crystal ball so I could tell you when it will happen, but I don't. If I had to guess, it would be within the next few weeks. People will panic, a lot of retail will leave the markets, and the smart runs will accumulate this dip. Because the only way we can push back up is when it's time to go. I can see us dropping from the $65,000 to $75,000 range I've set if there's a crazy black swan event, something that suddenly happens and affects the entire planet. I'm not even sure what the black swan event could be at this point, but you know what I mean. Maybe a war breaks out, but a black swan event would definitely tape these markets below that $65,000 range. Now, I'll put this out there. What do they say when demand exceeds supply? Is Uphold claiming that they don't have enough supply, that there is way too much demand out there, and that they don't have enough supply out there to fulfill everyone's orders? You know what happens next. I mean, people, I know what happens next. If there is a high demand and a shortage of supply, the price will rise. The head of O'Leary Ventures thinks that in 2 years, cryptocurrency will rank as the 12th sector of the U.S. economy. Pay attention. The price simply rises as a result of supply and demand. The Genius Act, formerly known as the Stablecoin Act when it was initially presented more than 40 years ago, is the first of several laws and principles that exist. Both parties favor the combination of those two legislation, Jill DeGrant and Agri. The Stablecoin Act will therefore be the first piece of legislation that Trump discusses, and I expect that we will sign it in the next months. It's not about Bitcoin, but rather digital payment systems, which would allow you to send money to others for a fraction of what you currently spend for a bank if you had a wallet like Coinbase, Wonder Prior, or Robinhood. The other important piece of legislation we are discussing today relates to the market infrastructure and whether Ethereum is a security or a commodity. For those of us who have been anticipating this technology breakthrough, which I think will affect all 11 economic sectors, Jill DeGrant and you must engage in some bipartisan engagement around it. Remember, once we have the regulations in place, there is simply too much productivity locked in there, and I am convinced that Bitcoin will become the 12th sector of the economy in the coming years. Perhaps start with the basics and purchase the exchanges if you want to invest. I work at WonderPrior, Robinhood, and Coinbase. Let's put the rules in place, he urged, and they are already being applied gradually. Look, XRP is silent and it's strolling around the volume, Dark Defender stated, displaying his chart and pointing to the volume-wise median of 239 per second. Even though we are now below this barrier when making this video, he asserts that we are above it at 241. We can either hit the support below, which is at 222, or we can keep climbing and get beyond 250. As we get closer to our bigger objectives, he said, we are now in Wave 4, which will end in Wave 5. The following was then made public by Zafi Crypto. When all of the XRP liquidity starts to build up above $2.60, what does that mean? Sitting at 260, that suggests a lot of opposition. For us, what does resistance mean? We're talking about a lot of sell orders, so let me simplify and move on. Is this the same support or resistance that we've been showing you for a while? The price of XRP is currently in the middle of nowhere, so let me quickly refresh this, because I want to show you both the support zone and the resistance areas. There you have it, red resistance. Many people are looking to sell between 250 and 265 at that point, and we have a gap and it goes from 272 pretty much all the way to $3 at that point, folks. On the downside, we have strong support sitting from $1.99, $2 we'll call it, all the way down to $1.63. Now, if Bitcoin decides it's about to fall off the cliff, it's going to drop $20,000, give or take, and we could be revisiting that $2 range, even $1.90. The higher XRP goes now, the more it can sustain during a dip, and I do think this little crash dip on Bitcoin is coming. Bitcoin is in a bad place, so relax. XRP is in no man's land. Bitcoin must return over $95,000 before we can declare that we have fully broken out and that we will not be returning to the $60,000 to $70,000 region. Until then, we are merely floating, and our only option is to watch the charts and track the movements.